This episode of the Pain Education Corner is sponsored by the Comella Foundation. The Comella Foundation is committed to relieving pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. Here at the Comella Foundation, we envision a world where people achieve their maximum potential by being empowered with knowledge and skills to heal themselves and others. This information is to be used for educational purposes only and not to be construed as medical advice. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Hello, it's Bill, the knee pain guru, and welcome to the Pain Education Podcast brought to you by the Comella Foundation. Today we have a special guest. His name is Paul Bando. He is out of Pennsylvania in the United States, and he has extensive experience on a piece of equipment called a PEMF. I am relatively new in my experience of the machine and how it has pain relief benefits to help people that are suffering with pain. I'm going to let Paul introduce himself and go deeper on the machine so he can educate us on what it is, what the machine is, and how it can help us with pain relief. So welcome, Paul. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. And just to say a little about myself, I'm a post-magnetic field practitioner along with craniosacral therapy. The PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Fields. And this came into medicine back in the day when Russia sent their first astronaut to outer space. He was off the electromagnetic grid for less than 2 hours, but when he returned, he was extremely ill. Blood disorders, even arthritis setting in, depression. So space medicine is where PEMF came into its ideal performance for astronauts, because we get hit with 8 million lightning strikes a day that comes through the ionosphere and hits the Earth's cavity. And actually, it creates a pulse. And the pulse has been measured between 0 and 30 hertz. And then you have the Schumann resonance also as part of that electromagnetic spectrum. So what this has been able to do in space medicine is to keep astronauts with a cellular charge to the increase of voltage to their cells, so they don't develop all these different imbalances when you are not within the Earth's magnetic field. And NASA has created their own system. So in Russia, once this was examined and explored, it became where every country developed their own PEMF system for every imbalance that you could think of. And the whole basis is that we have this in the cells, we have the mitochondria, and the mitochondria is the battery of the cells, and we have sometimes hundreds of those within one cell. So the microcurrents within the Earth's magnetic spectrum, when they hit the mitochondria, it increases the cell voltage. And once a cell has its strength, and that voltage is 70 to 100 millivolts, then the cell basically knows what to do in order to heal the physiology. So we have the cell communicates, it has memory, it has intelligence. And so primarily what we're doing with PEMF is sending these microcurrents up and through the body and creating like a harmony of cellular functioning. Question, Bill?
Yeah, Paul, I got questions already.
Sure.
Okay, you mentioned some terms. I'll definitely put links to these terms,
Yes.
Schumann resonance, in the show notes. So I'll include that those who are watching can do their research on this. But my question to you is, when the Russian astronauts went up into space and they had this experience after just a couple of hours in space, can you break it down as to what was happening in space a little bit more and how the PEMF was helping with that or understanding?
Yeah.
I need that broken down a little bit more for me so I
Sure.
could explain.
So what's been known, if you leave the Earth's magnetic grid
Mhm.
and they're out in space, they're not getting any of the resonance that's necessary to keep the cell voltage up around all your different organs.
Oh, got it.
Now, there was a study done by a Dr. Hunt years ago in UCLA where they made this mu metal box and they put students in this box. Now, mu metal is the only thing that will block out the Earth's magnetic grid. And they had to stop the experiment within like an hour or so because the people in the box started to go into crying and pain and depression very quickly. So they stopped the study and brought them back out into the Earth's electromagnetic field. And that basically, brought them back to normalcy to a degree. So it's one thing in medicine, especially conventional and even alternative medicine, that there's very little addressing to how can we get this frequency in the body to create and generate an optimal physiology of mind and body. So,
Okay.
no.
Let me try to translate to how my brain would make this work. And this goes back to what you were talking about, the mitochondria and the 70 to 100 millivolts
Yeah.
that charges the cell that you're experiencing on a PEMF machine.
Yes.
Okay. When you leave the Earth's atmosphere or when you go into outer space, the Earth is essentially charging us. Like there is some level of charging that's taking place on the Earth that doesn't exist when we're in outer space.
Exactly.
Okay. So the Earth is like our battery charger.
The Earth has a pulse.
Okay, the Earth has a pulse. Awesome. So I'm like making this make sense in my brain. So the Earth charges us when we go out in the outer space. We no longer have connection to that battery charge.
Exactly.
And then we can get really sick when it drops, when our millivolts drop too low.
Exactly. So there was a German scientist in the 1930s, Dr. Warburg, who basically was able to take a healthy cell, put it in a voltmeter, and he got a reading of 70 to 100 millivolts. Then he put the flu virus into a petri dish. The voltmeter was down in the 60s. Put another petri dish with an autoimmune disease like MS or fibromyalgia, that dropped into the 40s. And cancer cells dropped down into the 20s. So my work with cancer and people is getting them on one of these systems to support their usually allopathic approaches, but to try to keep the cells charged to its most point. And if you charge a cancer cell out of its 20, 30 resonance and you kick it up, we find that it stops proliferating throughout the body.
Got it. So I got a bunch of literature, just a little context. The reason for this interview with you is because one of our sponsors, the Comella Foundation sponsors, donated a PEMF machine to the Comella Foundation. Yes. So I started experimenting. I usually experiment on myself first before I ever suggest anyone else try anything, which led to our connection and reading the literature, watching some videos about this machine. And so I was reading about this is an FDA approved machine, correct? FDA approved, and there was some really exciting studies in and around brain cancer research on how exactly what you had said, that these millivolts when 70 to 100 were healthy, and when it drops down into the 20s or wherever that is, that it gives the opportunity for cancer to be proliferating.
Yes, right. And I
Wow.
have one client that basically we got him, the brain tumor is called a glioblastoma. And we have one person who, that's usually one of those 3 to 6 months and you're off to heaven. But fortunately, we got him pulsing with the same system that you have. And he went through chemo, radiation, surgery, and then they have a pulse magnetic field that they tape where the tumor is, these electrodes, because to get a magnetic field, you need copper. And so they copper electrodes where the tumor was. Now he's into a year now and he's still in remission.
Wow.
So that was pretty exciting.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
The cancer stuff is awesome. I need to be careful not to go down that rabbit hole where our focus is going to be around pain. Now, this could be any type of pain. We got joint pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, back pain, hip pain, pain in general. And my own experience has been, I'm continuing to working through my own layers of stuff in my body from years of being a guy doing things that cause pain. But I've been absolutely amazed at how using at first the mat, which is, what is it, about a 6-foot-ish mat in and around there you're laying on, contains copper coils. Those coils are emitting these frequencies that charge the mitochondria in my body, and I feel this relaxation take place. And then they have a pad which gets more focused, and I can increase the intensity of the pad. And then I also have a wand which can go on a specific area, like a knuckle or a joint or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pain.
Okay.
Let's talk about how that works.
And let's also state that the information that I'm providing, that the PEMF systems that I use, we want to say, always check with your doctor first. And we can't make any claims that this does anything. In fact, our CEO in Switzerland simply says, let's introduce this as a wellness mat. But Health Canada has already come on to approve this. So if you're in Canada, you can most likely write a script. If the doctor understands PEMF, they can go to a PEMF center and get this. But let's get back to pain. So there's been so much research done with PEMF. In fact, one of the reasons a lot of people invest is because of pain. Now, this is going to be, our physiology is an information system. And what PEMF does, it creates the ability to send coherent signals up through the nerves into the brain to get specific activations of releasing people out of pain. So inflammation is a big thing. In my recent research, finding out the stomach area, the microbiome, is so important in relationship to inflammation. And its connection with the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body that runs up into the brainstem. So what we're doing here, if I have somebody in knee pain, I'm going to put them on a full body mat for at least 10 minutes. That's going to separate any red blood cells that are adhered together in 10 minutes. And then I will take the small pad, and we have for other aspects, if you can see this particular, it's like a glove that you can wrap around, for example, the knee. But as we're doing this, it's important that we pulse the microbiome. So I take the pillow mat, lay it over the abdomen, so that we're starting to awaken up those microbes. Because the microbes signal through the vagus nerve the neurotransmitters that actually, if they're activated and we need to cut them down, they'll do that naturally. So when we're talking about pain, if we don't talk about the microbiome and we don't actually talk about the vagus nerve, we're missing a large part of how we can help people. And with the vagus nerve, which goes from the brainstem down the spine, then it starts to meander through other parts of the body. That nerve, they call it like the sensor. And if you have a vagus nerve, they call it a vagal tonal. If it's in a low range, you're going to most likely have a lot of discomfort in the body. So the other thing that the PEMF math does, it raises the heart rate variability. And on these newer systems, we have a biofeedback that can read your heart rate variability, your oxygen intake, and your heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
So very important that we are signaling the proper signals to the brain through the vagus, which will go down into the other areas of physiology.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have one person really got great results with basically needing a knee replacement. She's been doing the math, and she's been doing the CBD oil, very good native CBD oil. So where pain also is addressed, whatever medication, supplements, whatever you're taking is going to be driven deeper into the core of the cell for the reaction of those supplements to be even more effective. Mm-hmm. So that's a very big a plus, because if our red blood cells are adhered together, they call this rouleau effect. Then the blood cell, primarily, all those receptors, they can't open up and receive the medicine, the supplement information. Mm-hmm. And as a result, we're kind of like wasting our money on supplements if we can't drive it and get that into the core of the cell.
Sure. Paul, could I back up just for a second?
Sure.
And I could share what I heard in terms of the talking about the vagus nerve and the microbiome as it relates to a specific joint issue.
Yeah.
Back, neck, knee, hip, foot, ankle, whatever it is that you're essentially sequencing. You're setting up the optimal condition when working with the PEMF to make sure we get the best results in the shortest period of time by addressing the vagus nerve and the microbiome in the gut or belly area, abdomen area, in a way that will allow, when we go to the specific area of the body, be it the knee or otherwise, we can get the best results with that specific joint.
Yeah. Now, of course, we have settings in your system. You have something called an iGuide where you can dial up a particular condition, like inflammation, for example, immune system support, Alzheimer's, and so forth. Those frequencies that are programmed into your unit were basically out of studies that were done in Eastern Europe, because Eastern Europe had this as a modality, health modality, way before it came to Western Europe. But when the wall came down, there was a lot more exchange of information regarding this. Right. So that book that I sent was written by 2 Australian doctors. So all of those frequencies or intensities and how much you do it was based on research done in Austria. That book came out about 2002. Mm-hmm. So we can dial up, for example, pain, acute pain, chronic pain. We set the intensity, we push the button, go, and we're off and running. Mm-hmm. So, but being that we are a whole body system, it's very interesting that people feel knee pain. I got to do something with my knee. Well, 9 times out of 10, they may have to stop eating foods that create inflammation. They may have to take a supplement to help the microbiome. And they may have to do a few exercises to activate the vagus. But by putting that pad over the stomach, you're getting the vagus, you're getting the microbiome, because this pulse goes all the way through the body and out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at tissues and ligaments and things like that, this is an excellent modality to help drop that inflammation and tighten those ligaments, tighten the tissue, basically purifying that.
Yeah. You're putting words to what I was feeling on the machine. I was testing. I was just doing 8 minutes at 25% intensity on the mat.
Mhm.
And then I was taking the pad and putting it on my, my hips, which it was kind of covering the lower part of my abdomen.
Mhm.
So I'm feeling like I was hitting a portion of what you're talking about. But there would be this time where I would increase the intensity when it was just the pad. I'd be lying there, and all of a sudden I just felt this like my whole body just drops, and like super peaceful, super comfortable, like, no, mom, don't wake me, I don't want to go to school kind of feeling, you know?
But what's happened there, Bill, is that you were dropped into the parasympathetic nervous system. That's
Right.
rest and digest, and that's the only system where we heal. We don't really heal in the sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight, flight, and so forth. So PMF, yes, most of my clients, and now the ones that we have with microcurrents and infrared coming out at the same time, they drop so quickly into the rest and digest parasympathetic. And I see with my cranial work, it's much easier to do alignments. That whole fascia, the tissue just really just drops off and very, very, very comfortable.
Cool. Okay. I got a practitioner question for you.
Sure.
Do you work on your clients at the same time they're on the mat, or is that a separate?
I actually work cranial sacral while they are on the mat.
Oh,
now we even
got it.
start switching around. I will put from going down to palpitate at the feet. That small mat is over their abdomen, microbiome. There's ways you can work the vagus nerve by working on the ears.
Sure.
But I would recommend for the microbiome, Dr. Zach Bush, MD, his podcasts are just so incredible with the amount of information and the way he presents the importance of this microbiome.
Okay.
And, there also was a documentary I watched yesterday that's just changed my life as of today. It's called Superhuman: Making the Invisible Visible. I highly recommend anybody that's dealing with any health issues to watch that. It's on Amazon Prime. If you don't have Amazon Prime, I'd highly recommend hooking up with a friend to do that. Because they're gonna share how consciousness, very scientific studies, how consciousness can manipulate matter. Dr. Joe Dispenza, actually, when he was hit by an SUV on his bike, they wanted to put rods down through the spine. He totally refused that, went back in 8 weeks through consciousness. Of course, he was a Kara, so he knew what was his imagery, and his meditations basically rebuilt the spine. He was back to work in 10 weeks. He speaks a little bit about that on this documentary. But
in the Superhuman: Making the Invisible Visible.
yeah,
Okay.
It's all about quantum healing. And this is what the PMF system is. It's all about fields, coherent fields. And it's basically the medicine of Tesla, where Tesla said our entire biological system, the brain and the earth itself, work on the same frequencies. So one thing that's creating pain is the way cell towers have come out now with the 5G and so forth. Those frequencies that we're getting hit with constantly drops the voltage of the mitochondria. So I have people that invest in these systems to offset the electrosmog coming from the wireless devices. These wireless devices will make the blood platelets stick together, and then we're in trouble if we can't separate those. And I don't know if many supplements it can actually separate as quickly as PEMF in an 8 to 10 minutes of a pulse. So, yeah.
This is all, I'm loving it. This is great. This is great. I'm learning so much. Question for you. And I know the version of the PEMF machine that we have here at the Comella Foundation has preset frequencies and intensities. Is that, I understand that? Okay. And there's evolutions of these or different upgrades, we could say, about these different types of machines, the newer ones that are coming out. Do any of the machines have the capability to dial up or dial down the intensity or the frequencies?
Yes, even on your system where it says intensities, there's a plus and then there's a minus. Now, I do muscle testing, kinesiology, so I'm always muscle testing. And a lot of times, the settings that come up in your menu, those are basically the generic beginning settings. After using a system for a week, you can start to increase that intensity, and you can increase the time. The full body map is a triple sawtooth wave. That triple sawtooth is a conglomeration of all frequencies that are needed by the internal organs. Like the heart is one frequency, the liver is another, the spleen is another. But with a triple sawtooth, you get specifically those types of frequencies to take care of those organs. The small pillow and the probe is called a square wave. Now, NASA did a study with waveforms and healing. They say that square wave is the fastest way to enhance regeneration of bone, tissue, nerve. So I love the Swiss mats. I had some German systems before, but the Swiss mats have 6 separate coils. 2 at the top are wrapped thinner. That takes care of neurology. 2 in the middle are thicker to take care of the mid-torso. And the thickest are at the bottom. So we're getting frequencies that are just not all one frequency from the head to the toe. They're very specific to these areas of the body. So, yeah. And my website, which is Cellular Therapeutics, .net.
We'll put this in the show notes. We'll get the exact spelling and everything.
If you go under doctor videos, there's a list of videos of doctors doing brief YouTubes and basically how the system works for health. And then the real interesting one, there's one on electrosmog, which is the dirty electricity coming through the walls from smart meters and frequencies. If you're living near cell towers or under power lines, that definitely can increase pain because we're blocking the information system of the body where the signals can reach, the endorphins, for example, which are the painkillers. Get the endorphins activated, the serotonin, the dopamine, all those happy chemicals. We're not getting those many times through the physiology of the body brain. And there's so much research out there on the damaging effect of electrosmog. Unfortunately, the corporations with billions that they put into this, it's very hard to get any medical people on board with this.
Yeah, I hear you. And we could do what we can do based on what we have available, and everyone. And I'm a big proponent of people making their own choices. So making this information available in a way that allows people to empower themselves. It's like, okay, well, I understand I'm getting bombarded with all of these electromagnetic fields that are surrounding me right now, cell towers and wireless networks and cell phones and all this other stuff. And now I can start doing something to even the playing field, so it allows my body to heal better. I have a question for you, because the exposure to a PEMF machine, it causes a detox reaction. It opens the cells, it allows the cells to detox.
Yes.
So this is going to be big in terms of if somebody's suffering in pain. We go back to the effect of the vagus nerve and the microbiome in the gut, and how that's affecting in the equation. We had a guest a month or so ago that was talking about specific ways to detox your gut once a year or once a quarter. And my question to you is, how can this be done either in concert or in replacement of a detox like that? And he was doing things specifically with psyllium husk, and then colostrum and fulvic acid.
Yes.
So I want to wrap my brain around, I don't want to do double duty if I don't have to. And I want to like optimize my body's ability to detox. Could you speak to this?
Yeah, you would want to use the PEMF mat as you're doing those different detox supplements, because again, it's going to make the supplements that much more absorbed into the cellular body. So part of my other protocol in my clinic, I have a very high-tech ionic foot detox, which basically developed by a doctor in Colorado, but it pulls out like 28% glyphosate out of the body. It pulls out cadmium, pulls out aluminum. So I always will muscle test if somebody's coming to, let's say, release metals. I will give them a 20, 30-minute detox foot bath. Then we come on to the PEMF mat. And it's very important to hydrate. You should really hydrate before you get on the mat and hydrate afterwards, and increase your water intake through the day, because that's going to start to flush toxicities out. The other thing I found, I just invested in a little hydrogen system that makes hydrogen water, which again, a lot of research around that. Very, very inexpensive. It's like a small hydrogen unit on Amazon is like $80 or $90, but I'm really loving that too. So I would also, put that up as far as something that can be very effective as far as inflammation, especially.
And just we got the video stop, but I want to make sure we're going to put all this stuff in the show notes as well. Links to the Amazon. You still there, Paul? We may have lost Paul for a second, but until Paul comes back, one of the pieces that we will do is we will make sure all of these links to what Paul is talking about is going to be in the show notes. So if there is any questions, whatever it is, we can have links where you can reference what Paul is talking about. And we'll hang here for a moment. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, Comella Foundation.org. Paul.
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, welcome back.
I was off the Earth's magnetic grid.
Yeah, that's right. So what I was saying, you froze. What I was sharing with all the watchers of the podcast is we're going to make sure we have links to the hydrogen water machine as well as the foot detox thing. We'll have links to all of that information in the show notes as well. I'll get with you after the podcast to make sure this is all the correct information that we're going to have.
So I think we left off that it's just very important to hydrate. And that's the other thing about water in the respect of the PMF. You can take a glass of water and put it on your small pad for 8 minutes at 400 intensity, and it'll make biomagnetic water.
Oh,
Another very powerful thing for healing. It breaks up the water molecules into nanomolecules, so it can get absorbed into the cells much more efficiently than just regular water.
okay. So that was 400 intensity for how long?
Just 8 minutes.
8 minutes.
For a glass, the 12-ounce glass of water.
And
It's
this
one of
is
the- Mhm.
this is on the pad, not the mat. The pad,
On the
correct?
pad, yeah. And if you want to make more water, like a quart, then you need to keep the intensity at 400 and maybe pulse that for like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Neato. Okay. Let's see. I'm looking back on my notes here. What about disadvantages of using the PEMF machine? Are there any contraindications? Anything that people would want to be wary of? Pregnant women, people that have been chronic pain or joint replacements and things like that. Can you speak to that?
Basically, yeah. So contraindication, pregnancy, even though in Eastern Europe, my CEO said that he used the PEMF map with his 8 kids that he manifested into the world. We don't do it in the States because we don't have pediatricians working with this. If somebody has epilepsy and they have seizures, then we want to not put them on the PEMF map, epileptics with seizures. And the other thing is pacemakers. Now, the old pacemaker, which is called a bipolar, we don't pulse with those, but we had the NIH actually do a study with our system with the new pacemakers. They're bipolar, new defibrillators. I've used them with baclofen pumps, diabetic pumps. This is low frequency, so it doesn't shut off any of those. But usually, if you look at the contraindications that come up on your monitor of your control unit, it'll say pregnancy, epilepsy, and electronic implants. And even though my first instructor was Dr. Pollock from Johns Hopkins in PEMF, and he's written a couple of blogs. The last blog had to deal with if you're getting a knee or hip replacement. PEMF is excellent because it's going to regenerate the tissue and for the bone to be more secure of the apparatus they may be putting in the hip or the shoulder or so forth. Yeah. And faster healing times.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. It seems to me there was pregnancy, epilepsy, joint replacements.
Yeah, joint replacements are fine. Even if there's metal in the body, there's no contraindication to that.
Okay. Is there any type of joint pain that you would want to be cautious of? I'm like asking any possible question.
No. So if I have people with fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, you go very low. You go to the lowest setting. And sometimes where they might say 8 minutes, you may just want to do 4 minutes. But I've had very good results when people slow down. This is a machine that not more is better. It's like less is better. Even though the pillow and the probe you have, you can go as high as you want with those. And a lot of it is subjective. So we set up a protocol for somebody. We call them a day or two later and just say, so what's going on? And they respond, and then we make adjustments from there. But primarily, and sometimes people that are more on the frail side, you want to stay in the low intensity levels, sometimes instead of 8 minutes, maybe again 4 minutes. Then eventually you start to increase when you see that, okay, they're able to go 8 minutes at intensity 10. Let's try 15 minutes at intensity 25. And so one thing about my position as a PEMF practitioner and distributor, a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, a lot of emails to just keep ahead and make sure that systems are used right, and if there's any reactions, what we can do for it.
Mm-hmm. No, this is great. Let me see. Let's see. Can you speak to the experiences that you've seen working with specific types of pain? Lower back pain, neck pain. Oh, here's a question in regards to neck pain. What is the concern about being so close to the brain of using something that has higher intensity, like the pad or the probe?
Yeah, it's best to use lower intensity when you're working up around the head. Even though in my own experiment, I can take a pad and put it under my head up to 100, and I don't have any reactions for it. But primarily, it's a subjective thing. And the one thing about the vagus nerve is very interesting. Two of those nerves come out of the brainstem. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of people doing cell phones and their heads are always down, if you have instability into those cervic nerves like the atlas, C1, C2, and so forth, that actually rattles, and it actually rattles all the way down to the spine. Ooh. So for those using cell phones, I mean, that can even have an effect on knee pain. But the one thing I wanted to say, was that just having one session for somebody, say, with knee pain, mm-hmm. it's not going to immediately bring that person totally out of pain. This mm-hmm. is something that has to be done on a daily basis, or like at my clinic and some of the other acupuncturists, chiropractors, they set up packages where they'll sell maybe, 250 minutes for $200. And then it's important that people follow through mm-hmm. and continue, because cell voltage and the toxicity we're around consistently, it's not an overnight cure, as to speak of.
Mm-hmm. Could you speak to someone who's in different levels of pain? What type of time frame or amount of time, because you were talking about these 200, how much time they would need to spend on a machine like this to begin seeing results?
Well, primarily, they always would want to do the full body math for separating the adhered blood platelets. And then that basically can be a 10-minute, twice a day mm-hmm. pad, and in your case, the probe, in my case, the knee wrapper. You can use that as much as you want. So I say, if you're sitting down reading a book, put the pad over the microbiome, put the probe under the knee if you're watching a movie. And so it's basically not that time intensive. If you can make it work to your schedule and mm-hmm. be consistent with it, that's primarily how I recommend,
Mm-hmm. And I could totally see the business model that you're using as far as like renting or leasing out these machines or selling these machines that someone could have in their own home, more for a person that's wanting to test it out, more for a person that's like, hey, this sounds really cool, but I'm just laying on this thing and, someone with acute knee pain, let's say, and they're going to limp in here. They're going to go, okay, I want to make I'm taking a risk, because this isn't like what the docs and the physical therapists are talking about. What type of time investment, money investment is a threshold that would give me some sort of result that I would go, this might be for me?
Yeah. So that's where I would basically go to my website under the doctor videos. They'll explain a lot of different things. Time-wise, I always say if a person walks in limping, knee pain, I start first off, like, so let me hear what you're eating, for example. Let me, how much water are you drinking? Checking dental health. I'm sure you know the problems with people that have the mercury fillings in their mouths and so forth. That's a big problem. So I would assess them that way, and then primarily I would say, well, look, here's what I would offer. A lot of times, the first couple of times, I don't even charge anything for this. I just let them experience it. I should have sent you a little sensor that when you're on the mat, you put this sensor over and you can hear the pulse of the different components. Maybe I'll have to send that to you so you can use it in your foundation that people would understand. Because when you lay on it, it's like nothing's happening, but those microcurrents are definitely moving through all the body.
Got it.
So time-wise, all depends on how people decide to make changes to diet. Perhaps a little meditation is helpful. The other thing I find very helpful are the binaural beats, which I also do when people are on the mat. So if you put like in a YouTube binaural beats for pain, you'll get a specific music with those beats in. You can do it for any condition. So they're getting brain entrainment with binaural beats. And then I also have the light therapy that goes with the system. You didn't get one, but there's an emission of color through these glasses. When I put the red light basically positive for circulation and chronic illnesses, wounds, scar tissue. You can put the green light through the eyes, documented for swelling or growth. It's very anti-inflammatory, good for diabetes, cyst tumors. And then the blue light for anti-cramping, headaches, farsightedness, parasympathetic response. So, so also with the newer systems, we have the access to light therapy along with the infrared, along with the microcurrent. And it's unfortunate, our company used to, the other systems, we could rent those out for like six weeks at a time. And, but now with the newer systems, since they're based on the control units being like a laptop, the rentals have kind of stopped. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, this is all just very cool information. I think it gives us a really good foundation to start digesting some information, because, well, I mean, as you well know, in healing, we can't do it all at once. We have to point ourselves in a direction and begin to start taking action steps that are going to move us to a better understanding of what's going on in our body and things that we can do to empower ourselves to get ourselves out of pain, to take control of, this life, this body that we have, and take care of it.
One thing I want to say too, Bill, since if somebody goes online, they're going to see all different types of PEMF systems, ranging from $1,000 to some of the higher intensities up to $20,000 some dollars.
Okay.
My experience is we have one person who works in our company who buys all these mats. He cuts them apart. He has this device called a spectrometer where he can actually measure the waves that are coming out. There's a lot of claims that are being made by other systems that aren't actually truth. But the Swiss with the PMF, that spectrum, that wave coming out of there is like super pure. So that's where you have to make a decision. You're going to try a cheap system or a system that's been out for 20 some years and the research is like behind it and backing it the whole way.
Mm-hmm. How would a person who's doing research on these machines know? What would be to know a good system from a bad system? Someone can charge a lot for a bad system.
Well, anybody that you contact that's marketing, they're always going to say our systems is the best.
Sure.
So I go with practical experiences. I've been with this company for 9 years. I've been doing cranial work for, gosh, 25 some years. So I just go primarily with my own experiences and what I have seen. Probably distributed over 400 some systems, and very seldom do I get anybody giving me a call saying this thing isn't working. Like, I want to send it back. Of course, you can't send it back, but so that's a tough one right there. I mean, Beamer is another mat that, according to our people in research, says that the iMRS and the Beamer are the mats that are most sold through the world. But we did on my website, there's on the front page, a link called iMRS versus Beamer. And if you really want to get an understanding of what the whole architectural design is between both systems, that's a great one to watch, especially since you have the iMRS, because you'll get a greater understanding as far as what that's about. And also on that one, I do believe under that link, I do have Brian Mars speaking about pain and PEMF too. So
okay, we'll grab some of these videos
sure
from the links from these videos, because I believe the majority of them are YouTube, and we'll embed them in on a bonus page that a link will go from where this is going to be hosted on our website. And then so we will definitely include that to help people begin to understand all of this terminology that we're using. Because to be honest, when I first started looking at it, I was like, wow, there's a lot to digest.
Absolutely.
And you've been extremely helpful in terms of breaking this down into like how we can wrap our brains around this to get a better understanding how to use the PEMF as a tool to help relieve pain.
Well, if you look through the book that you have, it starts with anything from psychology to cardiovascular to digestive issues to neurological issues. And in that book, it shares the studies that were done and the benefits to all those different diseases. So it's kind of like just keep the vibration of your cell voltage, keep it up as much as you can. That's the body knows how to react and heal itself in that way. And the other thing about toxicity, we can have people in our life that are very toxic. And as they start to, if you're living, family members or whatsoever, the PMF has intensities for anxiety, depression, autism, learning disabilities, and things like that too. So if someone's coming in saying, I'm having difficulty with a partner whatsoever, and we muscle test and find there's definitely some deep depression, we can put them on a PMF mat for depression. And then along with other modalities, they go great. Massage, acupuncture, chiropractic, and so forth. Excellent for to supplement their work.
Got it. Awesome. Paul, we're kind of getting to our winding it down for the interview today. Is there anything that a loose end out there that we talked about that you'd like to tie that up, or something that you noticed that I didn't follow quite up on in today's talk?
As far as PMF, I think we're pretty settled with that. But one thing, though, that I found has been very effective for me since 1984, when I learned transcendental meditation, I've never missed a day of meditation. If it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes, creating brain coherency through consciousness is a very powerful way to transcend all the craziness that's, especially this year. Because as we put, wherever we put our attention, that's where our energy is going to flow. And sometimes it's so nice just to turn off the mind channel and go into that silent state. And even that is almost like its own magnetic field. And for people that do chronic healing or Reiki and integrative touch, there's a video under my electrosmog that it shows where there's people that had electrodes put through their fingertips as they were doing Reiki. And they measured the voltage, and it was exactly what the Earth's magnetic field was, 0 to 30 hertz. When they come over an issue that really was damaged on the body, the frequency would raise. So we have electromagnetic right here in our own hands, you know. So, so from that perspective, mind, body, spirit, and as I have my logo on my hat, it's the electric bulb.
Pulse on. Nice.
I'll put one of these in the mail for you, Bill.
Great. Great. Well, Paul, this was awesome. I want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise with myself and the audience.
Sure.
We'll put your contact information, website, how you could be contacted in, and we'll have that in the description of this video as well. And that where people can reach out to you if they would like more information or to speak with you directly.
Sure. Wonderful. And I've never been to Asheville, so one of these days.
Oh, that'd be great. You know what we could do? And this is, I'm thinking this is a little bit of brainstorm, and I don't want to throw it out too much, but maybe we could do a PEMF day through the foundation where we could promote it and have people come try it out and experiment and feel what it feels like, and you know, share that experience with those in the Asheville area.
Be great. Well, I have a podcast tomorrow with PMF and mold. So looking into again, frequency and currency, boosting that immune system, killing that bacteria with light therapy and stuff. So I'll let you know how that unfolds.
Great. Awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute honor to be able to pick your brain and draw that expertise out of you.
Thank you for having me, Bill. And I'll see you in the end. See you in the silence, as the meditation says.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is Bill Paravano, the knee pain guru, on behalf of the Pain Education podcast sponsored by the Comella Foundation. Thanking you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you on the next one. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, COMELLA foundation.org. Join us next week for another conversation on natural healing methods to eliminate pain.